prepared to spend the entire session in Jackson. It was only until three Republicans went to a co-pack meeting, which is in Mar-a-Lago at Trump's home in Florida, where there was a statesman from Brazil who had contracted it. And this was very early on in the process of hearing about coronavirus. Those three individuals came back to the Capitol. They were able to socialize. One of them got sick. It's still not confirmed whether he had coronavirus or not, but it sent a chilling message that this thing actually can spread. And I'm sure the professionals in the room in healthcare and medical care can correct me if I'm wrong, but the estimate is that you can actually affect over 800 people before you realize you even have it. So, as a state legislator, my job is primarily to write laws, write legislation, appropriate funding. But we find that in this matter, when it comes to the African American community, that those who are the poorest, those who are the most vulnerable, have been left out most of the legislation. You'll even find, as with the stimulus package, which I'll be talking about, if you didn't make a certain amount of money, you was actually excluded from it. So very poor people did not have access to the funding that they needed. Also, too, before we left the state capitol, we were hell bent on making sure that big corporations were taken care of. State employees, which included educators, were taken care of. But those who were on subsidies, they were not. So, and we fought as Democrats, fought very hard to extend the session for 2 or 3 more days until we got it right. But all of a sudden, the old adage, well, we've done enough for now, we'll take care of those when we get back, started ringing true. So, just to go over a couple of counterparts, a couple of things that's kind of interesting about the stimulus package and some things that are kind of disturbing. One thing is that it took forever to get the stimulus package put together. The first iteration on the federal level was actually very negligent in what it would do for small businesses. Now, I would just like to remind the panel and those who are listening that our government has bailed out the car industry several times, banking industry several times, other financial industries on Wall Street several times, but has very rarely put together a stimulus package to help those who are really the backbone of the United States, which are small businesses. So I'm pleased to a degree that there was about $300 billion appropriated for small businesses. But still to this day, there are very few people getting access to that money. You're told to go online, go through the SBA. You're told to do the same thing with your unemployment. The call center here in Mississippi went from handling about 800 cases to 10,000 cases. So you can see the type of demand and the overload that's on that infrastructure for getting back to people and actually approving their unemployment, things of that nature. So we're still riding out this mess. This is uncertain times, and not just to make it look like all doom and gloom, but I don't think anyone on the panel, because you all look like you're in your early 20s, and those who our parents' age have ever seen anything like this before. So, you know, I guess the sentiment that I would like to send forth is simply this. This sends a chilling shock that we are underprepared to pandemics, that our government responded way too slowly. And even having the estimates of accepting 100,000 or 200,000 lives as a milestone for acceptability is unacceptable. So I think we all can look back to that news release with Kobe Bryant, where he was killed in that helicopter crash. It was way back then when we knew about coronavirus here in the United States. So I'll be happy to entertain any questions after this introduction, so we can get a little more specific about the stimulus bill. But just know that And also too, if you do have if you're a contractor, if you own a small business, if you're self-employed, you can file for unemployment. And that's something that everyone does not know. Usually self-employed and contractors usually don't have that ability to do so. But also know this, that $300 million billion dollar stimulus package will be running out probably in July. So for those who actually file, it's not necessary that you have to rush and file, because chances are you'll meet some kind of gridlock. If you're trying to get somebody on the telephone, you'll be best off trying to do it online. You have extenuating circumstances, you're going to have to just wait, to be honest with you, because of the gridlock. But your case does not start from when you call. It starts from when you're eligible to receive unemployment. So I'll yield the floor. If you have any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to answer. You're going to have to just wait, to be honest with you, because of the gridlock. But your case does not start from when you call. It starts from when you're eligible to receive unemployment. So I'll yield the floor.
Hello, Representative Taylor. Is there a small business loan that's also available for people who are contractors or have their own small businesses?
There is. Well, there are actually two loans that have been set aside. One of them is a $10,000 loan through SBA. The application shouldn't take more than 15, 20 minutes to actually do. They ask for your account number, for your routing number. And, I don't know anyone who's received it yet, but it's supposed to be a viable system where small business can get an influx of cash, loan at a very low interest rate. I think it's under 3%, $10,000. Now, there's another loan the SBA also backs with your financial lending institutions, your whatever bank you're probably getting financial assistance through. Maybe your house note, or if your business is a business loan, they should be standing on go, ready to help you. And that paperwork is probably 3 pages long as well. I mean, it's not very difficult to do it all. And you can borrow up to $2 million. Now, the caveat with that is that there's supposed to be some loan forgiveness in that $2 million if it's for payroll assistance. So they basically loan you enough money for about 3 months of payroll. Under 3%, I think it's 2.75%, but they're supposed to forgive payroll assistance. And you're supposed to be able to include other loans and things of that nature. So, I think this is the opportunity that anyone in business should be trying to probably get both of those stimulus packages. It's unclear if you get one, will you be eligible for the other? That's some ambiguity there. So it's not clear. But I just say, hey, try both of them and see what happens. There's still a waiting period with that. So these are not funds that'll be handed over within the next week or so. But I would encourage anyone who has a business, go ahead and at least apply, and to try to put those funds towards improving your business and holding on to it, because I don't know, and you can tell me this, Dr. Williams, Jared, your estimates of when this pandemic may be over. But other than that, I suggest those people to go after those two loans.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I was just going to reply to that question about an estimate to when the pandemic would be over. The pandemic cannot be over until we have adequate testing all over the country, and until we have a vaccine. So what I suspect is that we're going to have episodes of rolling quarantines, but that's just my best guess. Of course, I've never lived through a pandemic before either. So, yeah. So 18 months is what some of the predictions that I've seen are saying. And that's really normally how long it takes to make a vaccine.
Mm-hmm. Now,
18 months?
18 months of rolling quarantines.
Oh.
So
how-
not,
So
hopefully, hopefully
Dr.
not everyone be in quarantine for 18 months.
Okay. So how has this changed healthcare in America?
Healthcare has changed so quickly. For me, I'm a family medicine doctor, so I work out in the community. I had been wanting to do telemedicine for a long time, but it takes a lot of, like everything else, there was a lot of paperwork, a lot of hoops to jump through to get certified and all of that. Within a matter of days after the quarantine started, I was certified to do telemedicine. So now we are really trying to see as many of our patients by video as possible.
Yes, ma'am.
Pardon me?
I just said yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so, and that's patients who are like, I take care of patients who have diabetes and hypertension and chronic lung disease and things like that. So I am taking care of them with the hopes that we keep them out of the hospital so they don't come in contact with patients who have COVID, and also just so they can stay healthy. So that is my main focus every day. Now, I have lots of friends who are in the ER, and I just have a wide physician network. So I have people who work in the ER. I have friends who are anesthesiologists, and they are really on the front line even more than I am. And there is not enough personal protective equipment. So, medicine is scary now. I have every day, it seems like we have a conversation about updating our wills.
Mm.
That is what is going on in medicine with nurses and doctors right now.
Okay, what lifestyle changes would you recommend for the African American community to embrace and prepare for a potential second wave of the coronavirus?
Hold on, I took some notes. You're asking the questions out of order, but
It's okay.
So one thing that we have going for us right now is that this happened when we have a lot of technology. I don't know if you've heard of the flu of 1918, which killed like a third of the world's population.
The Spanish flu.
Right, also known as the Spanish flu. It did not, we didn't have this technology, we didn't have the communication, we didn't have the knowledge just about viruses that we have now. So we're very lucky to live in a time where we have this technology, so we can have Zoom meetings and so we can see people. I think the thing that we can do, the first thing that we need to do is to teach everybody to use Zoom in your network. That means get the churches ready to Zoom, get your sororities, fraternities, civic organizations, your grandmother, like everybody needs to know how to use this technology, because I have a lot of older patients who still want to come into the office because they don't trust technology and they don't know it. And they are the ones who really need to just be having video conferences with me. They don't need to be in the office. Yes, so I think that's one thing that we can do to prepare. The other thing that we can do to prepare is to get fit. So obesity increases your risk of dying of COVID. Let me just say that again. Obesity increases the risk of dying of COVID. So we need to get fit. And you can walk now, you can ride your bike now, you can run now. But when we come out of quarantine, you definitely need to be doing those things. And you need to plan to invest in like a treadmill or some equipment that you can use at home, because we're going to go back into quarantine and you need to be able to exercise at that point too. Since I'm still seeing patients and I get nervous sometimes, I've been running a lot more because sometimes I just think I want to feel my breath and make sure that I can still do it. So, but we all need to be pushing ourselves as much as we can to get fit. The other thing that we need to do is eat healthy. For your immune system, I know you had a question on there about your immune system. The best way to get the vitamins and minerals that improve your immune system is to eat, the proper foods. So vitamin C, foods that have vitamin C are oranges, limes, lemons, grapefruit, and vitamin D is also important. You find vitamin D in salmon, milk, sardines, tuna, egg yolks, which have a lot of cholesterol, but they have a lot of vitamin D, and orange juice. So, and of course, eating leafy green vegetables. So I think those are the things that are going to make us ready for the next wave of the pandemic.
So
let me add one more thing. I'm sorry. You had mentioned earlier chronic diseases. So, and I shouldn't forget this, take care of your chronic medical illnesses. Take your medications. If you have diabetes and your A1C is 6.0, that's a good A1C. So the A1C tells us what your sugar has been running for the past 3 months. So if it's 6.0, you're going to do much better than someone who has uncontrolled diabetes or who has an A1C of 10.0. So take your medicines, do whatever you need to do to control your diabetes. And if you have high blood pressure, you could have a stroke while you're trying to fight off COVID, or have a heart attack while you're trying to fight off COVID. And the other thing is, if you are a smoker, your lungs are already compromised. So if you're trying to fight off COVID, which attacks your lungs, and your lungs are compromised by smoking, then you're not going to fare well. So everybody needs to stop smoking also.
Yes, ma'am. So how has healthcare changed in America since this pandemic?
So one thing for me day to day is I can't shake hands anymore. So as a family physician, that's really important to make connections with people. And it is a little bit harder to make connections. I'm behind a mask. I'm 6 feet away. I don't get to make that interpersonal connection. So sometimes that's a little bit harder. But the other thing as I said earlier, just the lack of us not having personal protective equipment, and also the inadequacy of testing makes us all take unnecessary risk every day.
So why do you think it has impacted, the coronavirus has impacted the African American community so much?
You did a great job earlier of all of my talking points. So diabetes, we have a high rate of diabetes. We have a higher rate of hypertension. We have a higher rate of asthma, and sarcoidosis, which is also, a lung issue. So that makes us more susceptible to COVID. There are also healthcare disparities. So, just honestly, there is racial bias in medicine. Black women, there's been a study recently about how Black women are treated during pregnancy and how we have increased morbidity and mortality during pregnancy. And it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, because if you all recall, Serena Williams had a very close call when she was after her pregnancy. She had a clot in her lungs and no one would listen to her. So there is a lot of racial bias in pregnancy. I am fortunate to have a wide network of Black female physicians. And, we try our very best to talk about that. And frankly, some of the things that we were taught when we were in medical school, we have to squash some of the things that we were taught when we're dealing with Black people ourselves.
Wow. So
there's a long way to go. And then there's also the issue of African Americans not trusting medicine And rightfully so. There have been things that have happened, like the Tuskegee experiment. So a lot of people don't really trust healthcare. So that's the other thing. I'm sorry, Bert.
You fine. So for you and your family, and y'all been a part of frontline workers, what preparations you take to keep yourself and your home safe as possible?
We take 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C every day, and we take vitamin D every day. And I wash my hands until they are raw. I always wash my hands a lot because I was a doctor. So, in and out of rooms, 20, 40 times a day using hand sanitizer. But now I just wash my hands every time I even think about it. I'm a little bit uptight. So we also clean door handles at least 3 times a week. I go through and I wipe down all the door handles with Clorox wipes. And I wipe my phone twice a day. When my husband is an orthopedic surgeon, he is not doing any elective cases now. So he's not doing the things that he normally does, but he has to do emergency surgeries. So whenever we get home, we take off our top layer of clothes in the garage, we sneak up the back stairwell, shower immediately, and change. Because my kids are always trying to run to me and hug me when I get home. So now they've learned that they have to ask me, is it safe for me to hug you now?
Wow.
So, yeah, that's how my life has changed.
Any last words that you want to give the people so they can understand, so they can get a clear understanding? I can hear the emotions in your voice while you're talking about how this has impacted everyone.
Well, I want to touch more on what you said about the lack of information. It is really devastating to our community. I feel like, I was talking to my husband about it. It's like we don't have a leader in the country, period. But definitely, like, where do we look to as African Americans to get, to get that person to let us know? It used to be the church. A lot of people don't go to church anymore. Now the churches are closed, and even they were not doing the right. Some of them were not doing the right thing when this COVID crisis started. So I just implore you to stay home and take care of yourself. And I do understand that staying home sometimes is a luxury that people don't have. But this disease is not fair. It's not fair. It's not treating everyone equally. And I just really want us to take care of each other and stay home.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. So now we'll go to the portion of, since we stand at home, since we're not able to get out and exercise or go to the gyms, different thing, Miss Elizabeth Rozier, certified personal trainer, she will come in and let us know the things that we need to do to stay healthy. So Miss Elizabeth.
Yes.
What suggestions do you have for everyone doing a stay-at-home order and how to work out, eating, and you can touch on the underlying health issues that's detrimental to the African-American community? And also, what can the kids do because it's no longer recess available? They're getting out and playing basketball, football. So if you'll cover those topics for us, please.
Sure, absolutely. So a lot of what the doctor shared ties right into, what I want to share with the group. Life as we know it has, it no longer is. And we have to truly focus on controlling what we can control, because there are a lot of us that really focus on things that may be outside of our control. And that does nothing but cause additional stress, additional worry. And, stress is a huge factor when it comes down to all up health. So I will first say that we should focus on controlling what we can control, but contrary to popular belief, we actually have a lot more control right now within our own homes than we would typically have day to day. And with that being said, we are home more often. Many of us are home more often than we have been in the past. A fact prior to COVID was that the typical family got to spend 37 minutes of quality time with one another per day. 37 minutes out of a 24-hour day. That is no time whatsoever. And we have all said that we wish we had more time to do, insert whatever you want to insert. And we now do have more time within our days. We are now spending more time with our families. We now can have more control in regards to what we allow in our home, what we allow in our bodies from an all up, just, consumption perspective. We are able to really focus on having and preparing healthier meals than we may have been able to in the past. We can do more meal prep with healthier options. We can teach our kids to cook so that we have a lot of doctors here on this panel that are going to talk about education, but even stepping outside of the typical day-to-day lesson plans, you can also incorporate family activities where you are teaching your children now how to prepare healthier meals. And when it comes down to staying active, again, many of us may have had gym memberships. Many of us may have gone outside to run. Many of us, may have gone to play basketball, and we perhaps can't do that anymore. But the moral of the story really is to just stay active. Active doesn't necessarily mean a true workout, but there are workouts that you can do at home. But what you can do within your own four walls, it really goes back to just thinking from an old school perspective. Think back to the days when there were no gyms, or when we didn't have gym memberships. What did we do to stay active? We would go outside as kids and probably jump some double dutch, or we would go outside and jump some rope. We can still do that. We can go in our backyard, we can go in our basement, in our garage, and we can jump some rope. You can set up some space within your home where you can be active as a family. Again, just think old school. If you don't have a set of weights that you would use or kettlebells, that's okay. You could pack up a duffel bag with items that have some weight to them, and you could do some, weighted arm lifts there. You could go ahead and, pick up a bag of potting soil if you're into gardening, and go ahead and lift that as a weight. Another thing and I just did this experiment yesterday, I wanted to see just how many calories that I could burn by putting on Amazon Music on a station that I liked and just dancing for close to 40 minutes. And I was able to burn close to 300 calories. I got my heart rate up over 160 beats per minute. I was sweating during the course of that workout. And that right there is staying active. That can replace going outside to run, working out on an elliptical machine. There are options for all of us. A lot of us mention how things have changed, and the doctor just mentioned that we need to educate our elders on how to utilize Zoom. Well, right now, there are tons of gyms that are giving free classes on Zoom right now. I have never been into yoga, but I have taken countless yoga classes since the start of COVID, and they're all for free right now. So you could go ahead and take an online yoga class via Zoom. They offer Zumba. You could even turn on YouTube, and there are tons of different options on YouTube as well from a wellness perspective. And it's definitely a diverse collection of options that are available out there. If you wanted to go ahead and bring your family together, if you're not all under the same roof, host a Zoom meeting and turn on some music. Everybody do their favorite slide. That's the way to get everyone active together, and again, to work up a sweat. And the last piece that I'll share is, the mindset piece. I started with that, but I'll end with that as well, because that's definitely another piece of All Up Health and Wellness. You have to ensure that you are able to really find and create your peace within all of this. And what I've had to do is I had to learn to log off of the internet, turn the news off, get off of Facebook, get off of Instagram, stop talking to certain people who are just in a negative space. But you have to protect your peace in all of this. And the last piece I will say is just make sure to drink tons and tons of water. As much water as you can drink. You are in your home. You can go to the bathroom as much as you need to, but water truly is another piece from All Up Health and Wellness that's critical.
Thank you, thank you. So at this point in time, I will also, Miss Elizabeth is the co-host on this panel discussion right now, turning things over to her, and she'll take us on out.
All right, so thank you for allowing me to be your co-host, Bert. I want to go ahead and have Dr. Lenora Hogan do a brief introduction of herself, and then I'll go ahead into asking a couple of questions.
Okay. Hey, y'all. Like I said, I'm from Starkville, Mississippi, along with Dr. Lakeisha. Lakeisha, my mama said, hey, she said she hadn't seen you since we were doing the summer work. So she said, tell you, hey. I am going into my 25th year as an educator. I've been director of the Career and Tech Center here in Starkville almost 5 years. Been an assistant principal prior to this at Starkville High School, where I graduated. So yeah, I'm graduate of Mississippi State several times. So just glad to be here today. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So as we all know, the face of everything has changed at this point, which includes the face of learning, the face of education. And
Yes.
I know that I have family members that have picked up the phone and called me to help them with my nieces, my nephews' homework. So the first question is, what should parents do if they don't understand their child's homework? Math has changed. It's been a while since parents may have been in school. So what do you recommend parents do if they don't understand the homework or the lessons that their children are learning?
Well, even before that, I just would challenge the parents to at least know what's going on with the schools, because I'm approached by every grade level. I know everybody. I'm probably related to most of them. But a lot of the parents are allowing the kids to not do anything. They think it's over with. You don't have to do anything. The kids think it's done. This is not going to count. I don't have to do anything. So first I would say, just have them do something. And whether they understand the assignments or not, look for resources. I know at Starkville High School, and I plan with the high school group as well because I'm on the campus. But a lot of the teachers have already reached out to the kids. Every student in our district has their own Microsoft Office. So they have Zoom, they have Teaming and all of that. Of course, a lot of them won't have the internet, but there's probably less than 30% of our students who don't have cell phones at the high school level. So they have resources. We've made file cabinets. I've even gone on delivery spots with the food delivery to pass out packets for every grade level. And sad to say, only 20 or 30 people show up to get the packets while they're getting the meal. So, you can't make them get it. But just understanding that resources are available and the teachers are reaching out. So just look for the things that the districts are providing. I know some people have called, parents have called saying that they hadn't heard from certain teachers, and you will have a few who have not reached out or who didn't get in touch, with the students, because a lot of the information in our Power School system, our data system are not up to date. So it's hard to get up with a lot of the parents. But again, we have social media going. We send out call outs, we send out emails, and we post it on our social media accounts. So, again, we try to reach them in every way we can, but just knowing the resources. A lot of schools are coming up with new school board policies to fit this crisis. We're kind of blessed. It's kind of a catch-22. The seniors right now are struggling. Of course, they're missing prom, they're missing graduation. But a lot of them are blessed because of state test mandates. Some are excused from those state tests. So graduation rate should increase because all those students who haven't passed state tests, as long as they're passing the classes right now, they're exempt from passing those state tests. So again, in that, make sure that they're covering their bases on passing the classes, because there are resources available to them to get those, grades up if they were low. And that's what our board is meeting on this week, finding the right policy to meet that. Will it increase? You'll have students who hadn't been doing anything. And it's sad to say that a lot of our kids go to class and don't do anything. So their averages may be below a certain percentage that would keep them from passing. So of course, first waiting on the policies that the board was set, and then just doing all the work you can do. Now to go along with your question, if you're struggling with things, our district provides a lot of resources during the regular school year. And now that this is happening, we have a lot of Zoom calls, like you said. Our student support services department, who deals with special ed, 504 plans and all of that, they have Zoom meetings, but again, that's an internet, issue for those who don't have. But just knowing what's available, making contact if you hadn't heard from a teacher or school official, to go ahead and contact those people, because they're there. We have to put in hours. I know a lot of people who are probably disappointed that teachers are still being paid, but I promise you, as a director, we're working harder not being in school than we would be if we were there, because we are worried about our students. We are worried about just their livelihood. They're not at school. So for some of them, the safest place for them is at school. So we're worried about their mental health, their stability during this time. So just, of course, knowing the resources and reaching out to those people who can help.
Awesome. So what recommendations do you have for parents that maybe are an essential worker, still have to go to work, and or who may have more than one child at home, because they are now having to, it's not just one child, children that may be in different grades. And again, the parent may be an essential worker, may still have to go to work. Any recommendations you have for folks that may fall into that category in regards to how they can potentially find time, or how they make the best of that situation to ensure that their kids don't fall behind?
And that's, I know that's difficult. That's difficult for me. And I'm kind of overkill with my son. I have an 8th grader who can be very lazy. So he's used to me giving him extra work. So he has to do the work the teacher sends, and he has to do what I give him. Even in that, I'm on sometimes 4 to 10 Zoom calls a day with other administrators, with faculty, and just making sure we're covering, everything that we need to have in place with the changes. So what we did is, and I saw this on Facebook, which was actually on Pinterest, where we set a schedule. And that schedule consists of a few minutes of math, a few minutes of English. We're reading a book together. We're doing the Hate You Give. And so every day he's responsible for a chapter, and I'm responsible for a chapter. He's ahead of me right now. I'm kind of behind. We both watched the movie, so we're going to compare. So just doing things that the kids like, setting up things that mimic school, but also creates a new environment for home, because as Shaq and Bert probably know, I'm always on the go, always doing something, whether it's sorority, community, or whatever. So this time, like you said, is giving me a chance to reevaluate. I've been walking 3 miles in the neighborhood, and I make my son go with me. And so just doing different things that can better us as a family. So now we have that time to do family things. So kind of sitting down with them and mapping out where their focus needs to be. If they were struggling in reading, if they were struggling, my son won't write in cursive, although he was taught years ago. So now I make him write his name every day in cursive. And so, just finding things that have dropped off, from when we were younger. So sitting down with those kids, and if there's an older kid in the house, getting that kid to teach the younger one something that, is important, or helping them to get a better direction of where to go. Because what I'm afraid of is this, I guess you could call it break from school, is a big break from school. So we'll have trouble the gap is only getting wider. If you think about it like that, we already had a big gap between African American learners and the rest of the population. So whether a lot of kids are saying this is not going to count, so I'm not doing it, whether it counts or not. When you go back to school next year, if you're in Algebra 1 this year and you got to take Algebra 2 next year, you're going to be behind. In my career tech classes, if you're taking year 2 next year, you're going to be behind. You need to at least do whatever is given to you, or read books, look for things to enrich whatever you were working on. So just finding things to do. And Pinterest is awesome. Sometimes Facebook has some really good information. I've been seeing these little math puzzles where they have the people with the socks and the shoes. I know y'all probably saw those, yes. But those are really cool. Like the first one got me, and I was the best math teacher at Henderson, I'll say that. But when I missed the first one because I didn't realize the guy had the shoes on, I'm like, oh, you got to think. So those are pretty cool, you know, just trying to stay in touch with everything that's going on, because like I said, it will be a wider gap once we go back. I know our district is planning some summer activities, but as Lakeisha said, we don't know how long this is gonna last. So if we make it through the summer to get some summer school enrichment activities for our students, that'll be a different story. So I guess just making sure we're giving them something to keep them on top of what they've already learned, because now summer break is like summer and the fourth 9 weeks, and we're going to lose a lot of information and get further behind if we don't keep in touch in some kind of way.
Yes. One last question.
I agree. Let me add.
Go ahead.
I agree. The Zoom. And again, everyone won't have internet access, but most of the kids have cell phones. Most of our district is doing a lot of Zoom calls, but just communicating, whether it's by phone and talking about things. I know a lot of my old students and new students call me about help with different things. Just making sure you reach out to whoever you can. There's always someone who's willing to help you with different areas that you may struggle in.
No, absolutely. One question, and you hit on a piece of this through your sharing a bit earlier, but are there any other valuable skills or lessons that parents can assist their kids with learning outside of whatever the day-to-day lesson plans or work may be? Again, any valuable skills that in your experience, parents can find and research for their kids learn that they may not otherwise learn in school?
You talked about gardening and doing all those things. I tell my son all the time, my mama made us cook at 6th grade. I have a twin sister, and we took turns cooking for the whole family before my parents got off. So just trying to teach them some basic skills things. Our kids are so caught up in gaming, and I'm talking about my own child, gaming, that any common sense thing requires a lot of thought, because they're so used to cell phones, so used to games, till it's like when you don't realize that this is what you're supposed to be doing. And I joke with them. I say, your mom is not teaching you anything. I'm talking about me, but it is weird because sometimes we get so caught up in our own lives and doing so much till I think I know I'm talking about myself. I think I leave out some personal touches that we really need to focus on, whether it's the Bible, whether it's cleaning up. I mean, like, I'm slacking in a lot of categories. So this is a perfect time to teach these things and to show him, okay, you just turned 14 last week. We just had a discussion about money and not buying hot chips and saving your money, so I don't have to buy game controllers and stuff like that. So just whether it's the financial piece, one thing that I've learned, you were talking about seeing different things. One of my friends shared the Robinhood app, and I don't know if y'all use that, but I've always wanted to do something with stock and just never took the time to do it because I'm always busy. But over the last 2 weeks, I've gained $50 in the stock that I bought while it was low. So as you learn things in your circle, share different things. I'm about to do the Roth IRA that I put out for a whole year. So just finding different things that can better us as people and passing along to our community. Sometimes we find out things. I'm good about sharing whatever. I'll help anybody through school, all these degrees. Let's do it. But as we learn about new things, share it. I don't know anything about stock, but hey, I made $50 in 2 weeks. I think it's working. So I'm learning and I'm reading more about it, and I'm asking people and I'm sharing the link. So if y'all need the link, I'll send it to you because that'll get us both a stock share. But just learning new things. And I think this is a perfect opportunity to reevaluate where we are in a lot of areas and finding new things that we have potential to do. Because I can retire the next year and I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. So just finding things and talking to groups. That's why I'm so honored to be a part of this. Just hearing the fitness, like I said, doing things. Now I have time. I'm home before dark. I'm home all day. So we got different things that we can do.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hogan. We appreciate your.
And I looked at I took some notes. Let me see what I got on here. I would like to say those seniors who are struggling. My nephew is #1 in his class right now. He's been accepted to Duke. He's got the presidential scholar and he's freaking out. He's like stressed, depressed, and any word you can find. And I'm like, some things are out of our control. Like was mentioned earlier, all you can do is what you're in control of. So what our district is doing is celebrations and trying to, recognize those students as best we can, but just trying to keep their spirits up because a lot of them are getting into a depressive state and just not realizing that some things are just out of our control. There's nothing we can do about this crisis, except try to be a better person and learn from it. So just keeping a check on our students, on the elderly, on our friends, just, because mentally you could sink into a depressive state at any minute. So just keep in touch with your family members and checking on these students who are in their last few weeks of their high school year, just making sure they're good to go and just encouraging the parents. If you don't know, someone knows. Find somebody to help and just make sure you know the policies that are set by the school districts. And don't just assume that they don't have to do this because it's a perfect time, like those underclassmen who are in state tested classes. As long as they're passing, their state tests are waived right now. But if they're not passing, then they'll have to be in those classes again next year. And they will have to take the state test and pass it. So just knowing what's going on and not taking this lightly that school is out, I don't have to do anything. Because a lot of them have checked out.
Thank you, Dr. Hogan.
You're welcome.
I'll go ahead and have Mrs. Ruby Batiste introduce herself for a moment, and then I'll ask a couple of questions.
Hi, again, good evening. Thank you so much. I'm Ruby Batiste, and I currently serve as Chief of Federal Programs and Special Education in Crowley Independent School District. Like Dr. Hogan, I'm a lifetime educator. I have almost 26 years and have been my whole educational journey, if you count me being a one-to-one paraprofessional when I was in high school, I have almost 30 years of experience in education. I'm a strong advocate for those individuals that I like to call outside of the box. So in my role, I'm the chief of ensuring that equity goes across the board for all learners, and that's our English language learners, our students with disabilities, those who have an individualized educational plan, in addition to those who have Section 504 plans and have dyslexia, our career technology pathways, ensuring that our kids come out of school with a trade or something that will help close that gap, not just the achievement gap, but the prosperity and wealth and poverty gaps that exist in communities of color, especially.
All right. In your opinion, what can next school year look like if the closure, the shelter-in-place orders extend throughout the end of the school year and even throughout the summer? What can next year look like? What should parents kind of begin to consider wrapping their mind around?
I'm not going to say if, I'm going to say there's a strong possibility with all the information that we see that, like one of the doctors said earlier, we're going to have rolling shelter in place or rolling quarantines because the virus isn't going anywhere. So we have to learn how to manage everyday life. We have to continue to work. I can definitely see us having longer school days and a longer school week, possibly incorporating Saturdays quite regularly. to close some of the gaps that are definitely, they're going to happen. Our kids are going to be at a disadvantage. All students are going to be at a disadvantage. So what parents can really start doing now is to ease some of that anxiety that our students are having. All children are having anxiety. I have an 11-year-old and he is an only child too. So there's just, why do we have to stay at home? Why do we have to do this? Why do I have to do my schoolwork? Is it really going to count? So when we get back to business in a brick and mortar type situation, just letting our kids know that we need you to be the best that you possibly can be and pay attention to what's going on. Chunking, probably one of the greatest things that I see is where our children are already struggling. Let's go ahead and reinforce some deficits there. Let's go ahead and build upon those deficits. So maybe I don't have, even though kids need to let out energy and enjoy some creative spaces in school, but maybe they do need to have a double block math class or a double block reading class when we get back, just to close some of these gaps that are going to be created by the situation that we're dealing with right now.
This actually ties into the next question, because you mentioned those gaps, those deficits. And in your opinion, will testing these children, will testing kids be fair to see if they can advance to the next grade, in your opinion?
Right. And I'm proud of many of the governors who've stepped up and many of the commissioners of education at various states and petitioning the U.S. Department of Education to get the current accountability waived, or having the opportunity to get it waived. But I would like to challenge our legislators to take it a step further. We need next year too. We need one more break because we have to close this gap. So taking care of this year right now, and especially I'm thinking of those high school students who sometimes need multiple opportunities to pass a class or need multiple opportunities to even pass a state assessment. To lose, and let's just say we can't go back to school in the summer, because many of the districts like mine, like Dr. Hogan said, we spent hours on conference meetings and Zooms trying to just plan for the what if, the possibilities. Well, there may be a possibility that we don't go back into a school building into August or September. So now we have 5 months pretty much of a gap. And then so we're going to spend that time that we can go back trying to catch everything back up, trying to close it out. And then in the spring, when March, April, May, or whatever a state does their accountability testing, we're going to be testing that child. But is it really fair? Is it really fair to test them because we're making up for the previous school year? So I'm fortunate enough that I sit in a position that I have ears that go straight to the legislators. I'm going to definitely, and that's what I would encourage every parent to do, is just like the Congressman Schacht mentioned earlier, don't stop with just this year. Let's start petitioning for next year too. We bail out industries all the time financially. Let's take some time and bail out our kids, because this is a tragic situation that's happening for our children. So let's ask the legislators for one more year. We need consecutive years, because there is just so much that's happening. And like Dr. Hogan said, the school system for many children, more children than you can believe, is everything. And their basic needs of safety, security, aren't being met. So if for some of those children, so if those basic needs aren't being met, they're not thinking about education. It doesn't matter how many Wi-Fi hotspots we give out, how many computers we give out. If I'm not safe at home, if I don't trust the people who are watching me, because especially in our community, many of our children, many of our parents are essential workers. And so they're going out. So we really don't know who's watching the children and what danger they're in. They can't go to that teacher and talk, and that teacher can't see them anymore and can tell them, Susan's not in her right space, or, Trina something's off with her today. They don't have that. So I'm rambling now, but yeah, that's pretty much.
You are telling the truth. Yeah, exactly. I'm up here like, yes.
Yes, because that goes into just Maslow's hierarchy of as well,
Yes.
right? Where
Exactly.
you're going down
Yes.
the foundational,
Exactly.
you know, the basics, the necessities. So you were not rambling. This is the
Telling
truth.
the truth.
Okay.
Amen.
Thank you.
Yes. So one last question for you. How do you see this as impacting seniors, those that are in high school? You mentioned the high school, you know, students within answering another question. How will this impact those high school seniors that are going in or heading into college or supposed to head into college?
So many ways. First and foremost, not just the athletes, but with the NCAA, I'll start with the athletes. With the NCAA and their requirements, many districts are doing a pass and fail for all students as far as taking grades, and that can possibly penalize the NCAA eligibility status for a student. So if you are a parent in a district that's doing a pass-fail system, I ask that maybe you push the envelope a little bit. Contact your school board members and say, this is not enough to have just a pass-fail system for those seniors. It's pretty much taken care of. I think a lot of districts that I know of have pretty much cut off the spring semester for seniors, and that's, you know, not just those going to college, but everywhere. So that's good for them, but we have to think about our juniors, our sophomores, our freshmen. All this, it plays into class ranking, GPA, and those children who are able to go to school and not have any debt because they have appropriate scholarships. Seniors, I mean, I graduated from high school 30 years ago. So in 1990, this is my 30-year anniversary of just being a high school graduate. And I just think about, what was I doing in April? I was getting ready for prom. I was worrying my parents to death about, I wanted a limo, this type of dress, that type of dress, this type of makeup, this type of hair. You know, planning our graduation celebrations. You know, so many children, we've told them for years, oh, when you graduate, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, or when your senior year, you're going to get to do this, or you're going to get to do that. And many of those students feel robbed, emotionally robbed, because they're not going to have that opportunity. And some people will say, well, when we get back to normal, let's just do something for them. But we have to do it now, because we know how things are when in the fall. What'll happen is people will be gone. They won't, whether they're going to the military, whether they're going off to college, whether they're in the workforce, they can't just pick up. So for our seniors, I would really love to see people like our church groups, our sororities, our fraternities, other civic organizations. We really need to wrap ourselves around our seniors and our graduating, those who are graduating. And the reason why I say that is because for many young ladies, they may never get married, you know, they may wait a long time. So that may be the only opportunity they have to get dressed up. And many of our young men, the same thing. Today's society is so lax. So how can we make them feel special? How can we make graduation celebrations feel extraordinary? Many people don't walk the stage for college or anything after that. So this is what they've been working towards since most of our children in our communities, since pre-kindergarten. They've been told, you know, this is something that we have to really celebrate. But in seeing this for our seniors, I hope school systems can go back to celebrating 5th grade graduations again, 8th grade graduation again, because in my line of work, and I've been a lifelong advocate and special educator, many of my former students, they didn't have a long lifespan. So one of my key roles as a director in the school system, so just to make sure that every year we celebrated them, because many of those parents were burying their children. And even though right now with the COVID-19, we're not burying a lot of children at this particular point, but we don't know what will happen. So I would love our communities to not just take for granted, oh, we have 5 more years or 2 more years or even 1 more year, when we can celebrate our children and make them feel like superheroes, because they're so resilient that we do that.
Well, thank you so much. Any last words that you'd want to share before I turn it back over to Bert?
I just want to thank you all for putting this together. I think the panel has been great, and some of the topics that we're talking about, or this topic that we're talking about, is just extraordinary, and I love it. But one thing that I want to continue to reinforce is just like everyone before me said, we have to teach even my mother's going to be 80, Lord willing, in November, and just teaching people how to utilize technology, not just on the computer, but on our phones, staying connected, and then advocating for all groups, not just African Americans or, Hispanics, just everyone who's at a disadvantage, because those of us who are already at a disadvantage, we're going to be at the gap is going to spread. Yeah, it's going to be greater. So and then could communicate for those parents. And that's one thing, if your kids, because some kids are just difficult and they're not going to do that work. But if you just communicate to the school, hey, this is what's happening. I'm trying. I'm really trying, let's just keep a pathway of open communication and positive vibes. I'm into energy and vibes and all that good stuff. Just know that we're all in this together. So let's just be nice to each other, kind to each other, and we'll take care of our kids. We're going to take care of our seniors. But I just really appreciate the opportunity, and thank you all so much.
Thank you. All right, Bert, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Ms. Ruby, for that. That was great. Now we're gonna go into with a great friend of mine. I feel like I've been knowing this brother for a long time. We actually met about 2 months ago. He was in Dallas, Texas for a Black Teachers Conference. And we end up just talking and vibing with each other. So now we're here again, Dr. Gregory Bosworth. He's the dean. I would let him introduce himself. I can't do it how he can do it. So Doc, I'll let you take over the floor.
Thank you, Brother Bert, and good afternoon or good evening, family. Happy Easter to you all. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Awesome. As Brother Robinson said, my name is Gregory Bosworth. I am the Dean of Arts and Sciences at Jarvis Christian College, and I've been the Dean for the last 4 years. I have about 20 years of higher education experience that stems all the way back to Southern University. And I've been a teacher, Director of Quality Enhancement Plan, Associate Vice President of Academic Affairs, Director of the Academic Advising Center, and many roles in between. But I'm blessed to be here. This is a wonderful panel that Brother Robinson has put together. And I am just thrilled and ecstatic to be on here to share some level of my knowledge that I may hope to share and impress upon you with what I may know and what I may contribute. Interesting how I think Brother Bert was he didn't tell the whole. Should I tell the whole story how we met, Brother Robinson?
Go ahead.
We did meet in Dallas. We were I was at the TAPI conference, Texas Association for Blacks and Professionals Higher Education, and I had some colleagues from a cohort there. We were sitting talking. Of all places, we're getting ready to go to our honors gala, and we started talking about politics, race, religion, so forth and so on. And a lot of my colleagues were dropping some serious knowledge. And Brother Robinson and his brother came up, and we all started talking about it and vibing. And we bought each other drinks. Well, that's out the bag now. So we started vibing with that, and we talked. And we've been trying to get this thing going for the last few months. And fortunately, today was a great day. And but this man has a lot of energy, guys, and I just thank the world for him, because he's doing what he can do to make the world a better place. As my Twitter handle says, make the world a better place day by day. That's what he's doing, and that's what I'm trying to do. So thank you for this, Brother Robinson.
Thank you, sir. So Dr. Bosworth, how has this pandemic affected, your college and your kids that attend?
Oh man, it's been a wrecking ball. It's been a wrecking ball, and I can't state how it has drastically changed how we look and view higher education right now. I'm going to piggyback upon some of the things that your other colleague, my other colleague said earlier. There are some things that I'm just going to piggyback on, so it may be repetitive, but just bear with me. I mean, this has had a devastating effect on our students. What it has done, more so than anything, colleagues and scholars, it has shined a microscope or a flashlight on the social economic disparities that we have in our community. I mean, it really shines a light, because when you go to college, when you work at a place as a college institution that we do, sometimes you can just go through the mundane things of just doing things day by day, going to your lecture, going to your dean's meeting, your chair's meeting, your academic council meetings, and going home. However, and you don't see the impact of the student as you would like to. But this COVID-19 coronavirus, it has shed a great light on the disparity that our students have among some of our peer institutions. I mean, we have students, as Dr. Hogan said earlier, who rely on this campus to be a safe haven, to be a place they can come to escape the drugs, the violence, the sexual abuse, the domestic abuse. And that's gone now. They don't have that anymore. So we're sending them back to their communities to be a part of that. And most of them fought through high school, throughout their JUCO years, just to get to a place where they can feel safe. And as Dr. Hogan said, this is a place of, this is a safe haven. And so that's gone now. And so we just have to prepare ourselves to deal with the aftermath whenever they come back, that they may not be the same and we're not going to be the same. Just 3 days ago, when me and you talked on the phone, Bert, I got a call from the chaplain saying one of my students had been murdered in Palestine, Texas, selling drugs and things that in a drug bust, excuse me. And so those are the kind of neighborhoods, those are the kind of things that those students are trying to get away from. And right now it's devastating, because they don't have that safe haven. It's just not a place where we can go and invest in their education. This also serves as a place of a counseling center, a domestic abuse shelter, a rape center. There are so many things that we do at a college level that gets unnoticed. And now that we don't have our students there anymore and they don't have us there to protect them anymore, wow. I just imagine what's going to happen to that, to the group of students that we don't have everyday contact with.
So what effect would this have on your enrollment and recruiting process for the future students?
That's some uncharted territory that we just really don't know. I mean, I imagine it will have some effect. Hope is not a real negative impact, Brother Robinson. Right now, as you know, with the social distancing guidelines and things that we're doing when we're practicing those social distancing hygiene, so our enrollment team can't go out and recruit. They can't go out to the high schools because they're all closed. And so things that we're doing now, they have to be virtual. And so I think we have a plan. I'm working with the VP of Enrollment Management, working with the provost. Shout out to them. They're working hard. We're doing things to be innovative, to be creative, and to be safe. And let's not forget this. The number one thing at the end of this, and at the beginning and the end of this, ladies and gentlemen, is that we have to be safe. As Dr. Lakeisha was saying, the main thing is everything has changed. The normal practices that we have done before, when students come to your office, you may want to give them a hug or a handshake. You can't do that thing. You can't do those things anymore. When you see your colleagues, you have to be 10 feet away from them, or the practice social distancing guidelines that are set in place by the CDC. So it's gonna affect it in some way, because we don't have that personal touch, that face-to-face. We can't lay hands on the students, so to speak, Brother Robinson. So therefore, it's gonna have to be virtual right now, because we don't know what's gonna happen. As I said earlier, we're entering in uncharted territory. We just don't know what this is gonna do, where this is gonna go, how far it's gonna go. As the colleague said earlier, there could be times where we have rolling quarantines. We just don't know. And I hope we are able to sustain ourselves in this. I think we're putting plans in place, action plans in place to mitigate the damage that this may cause. I believe we're going to be okay. We're diligent about putting in a remediation plan for our retention of our students. So we're working hard to make sure that we can still maintain some level of normalcy. Although this is our new normal, we're still trying to maintain some level of normalcy in this process as best we can. But I suspect some change will come, but to what extent, I do not know.
What impact has it had on you and your staff?
As far as teaching, it really, to be honest with you, this has been the most, it's almost been a seamless transition because Brother Robinson, most of my faculty that report directly to me in arts and sciences, 99% of them, with the exception of 1 or 2 faculty members, were already had a hybrid type setting, through our learning management system. They were already doing things online. So for the most part, we just had to tune up on some trainings and things of that nature. But that part has been a seamless transition with our faculty. Now, the flip side, how this has affected students, as you mentioned earlier in your monologue earlier, Brother Robinson, excuse me, a lot of students don't have access to the internet. And that's what we're experiencing here at Jarvis. We have a lot of students who come from those social, economic backgrounds that I mentioned earlier that just don't have those resources. And that light is shining bright on them right now because they're trying to do things through their phone. They're trying to do things through any kind of electronic means of communication they're trying to do it. And some of our students do not have access to those internet services. And some don't have access to wireless services. Some don't have access to cell phones. This was their refuge. This was their place they can go to do their homework, to do their studies. They would go to the library, the resource center, the student success center, the dorms. Now that that's gone, where are they going to go now? So those are some of the problems that we have to deal with and that we're dealing with right now, trying to make sure that we could bring education right now to our students, because as I said, this is our new normal. This is where we are right now. And this is where we're going to be for the foreseeable future. Right now in Texas, I think Governor Abbott just extended the quarantine social distancing order by 30 more days. So that's going to go all the way until May 30th. And so what effect does it have on us? As educators, we still have to do what we have to do. As essential personnel, I go on campus once a week to check things out, make sure things are going smoothly, so forth and so on. But all my communication with my faculty and staff have all resulted in Zoom meetings now. Dealing with my students through Google Classrooms, Zoom, various other ways, Google Hangouts. That's where we are right now. This is our new normal. And like I said before, the most important and the most imperative thing that I want to impress upon people and impress upon my colleagues as well is the safety of everyone involved, because we don't know where this thing is going to go. Until we get this widespread testing of this COVID-19, we just don't know. And I'd rather be safe than sorry. I'd rather be safe than sorry, because we just don't know, Brother Robson, where this thing is going to go and where this thing is headed.
Yes, sir, I understand. So what's your thoughts on the pandemic, and how can we prepare for anything of this magnitude in the future?
This is our best training right now. You could have never prepared for anything like this. When you and I were talking in Dallas, it was March 7th or so, we were sitting there talking, and I was getting ready. I was telling you, I said, I got to go back home. And I told my wife, I said, I got to go grade these midterms. I got to get this stuff together. I got to do this and do that. And then because spring break was coming up, and lo and behold, not even 2 weeks later, this whole thing was flipped upside down. And it kind of, we were watching the numbers and we were looking at things and how it was doing. And we was like, whoa, okay, this is getting serious here. But then when it hit home and then the death toll started rising and rising and rising, and then the fears started coming in, we said, man, this is serious here. So I don't think there's nothing that we could have done that could have prepared us for this, because I don't want to say it hit us in the dark. I don't want to say that, because as Brother Shaq was saying earlier, we knew about this at the time Kobe Bryant had died about coronas. I think our national response was a little lax. I'm not going to get too much into politics right now, but I do believe that had a large deal to do with where we are right now, and those things will come out later on. But as far as a higher education institution, we just I think we were doing the things that we had to do to make sure that we were putting steps and measures in place once we start paying attention to the news cycle. And we immediately got on this. We immediately got ahead of this. And one thing about us at Jarvis, we were already, as I said before, we were already ahead of the game because our class were already online anyway. Most of arts and sciences, the majority of arts and sciences, as I said, with the exception of 1 or 2 people, all those classes are hybrid anyway. So it was a seamless transition to get that to an online learning setting. However, the part that impacts students is what we weren't prepared for. And I don't think anyone was, because there are so many things that go into just being an administrator at a college. It's just not teaching. There's so much more that goes into it, guys. And I'm quite sure my colleagues who are at colleges can reiterate that. They can chime in anytime they want. There are some things that we do that just, and I tell my wife all the time that this is what we are. This is what we do. But I think to answer your question, just to sum it up, Brother Robinson, there is nothing that could have prepared me as a dean, as a former VP. I just didn't expect it was going to snowball so fast. Now what this has done right now is made me realize that everything is going to change from this point forward to create a more virtual learning environment. And I think that's where we're going to go. That's where we need to go. In particular, the next few months, next 12 to 18 months are going to be critical, because as Sister Ruby said, we're still waiting on a quarantine, a vaccine. We're still waiting on a cure for this. We don't know, we don't have this testing. So there are so many unknown factors that we have to consider. And I'm keep going back to this, and we have to consider the safety of our student body, our faculty, and our staff. And that's important. Fortunately, we've only had one COVID-19 case at my institution, and that was the final thing in shutting us down completely and making us completely automated right there. It was that case that got there, and the person, as I understand, is recovering very nicely and expected to make a full recovery, but we just don't know. And the safety of our faculty, staff, and students and administrators is paramount to everyone involved at our college. So we just don't know. And I really don't have the answers to that. As a historian, my natural inclination was to, once I started hearing this stuff, hearing about this and learning more about this, as Sister Lakeisha said, I immediately went back to look at how this affected the roles and lives of people in 1918. And they were just like we are now. They were taken aback. They were just, this hit the world really hard, and it's hitting us really hard right now, because we, just experiencing this magnitude of death that we're doing right now. America's not used to this stuff here. And I don't want to get used to this. The model that they're having right now, the model that they're showing right now is regressing a little bit, and I hope that stays that way. But personally, as Brother Taylor said earlier, I don't think it should have went that far. But to just sum it up, Brother Robinson, I just don't know where we're going to go. I just don't know.
Okay, I thank you, sir. I'm gonna come back, y'all. I need to go back to Mr. Taylor for a second. Mr. Taylor, I have questions that a viewer wanted to know. Can you repeat what you was talking about small businesses getting help?
Sure. Well, first off, the idea of going to, and sometimes we get it a little twisted when we say loans. Sometimes it's immediate turn off to a lot of people because they start thinking about credit worthiness. And if you are a proponent of the Greenwood Initiative and what Mike Bloomberg was talking about, the Greenwood Initiative, he explained Black people, and he was actually correct, as meaning credit invisible. And I said all that to say this: the credit worthiness of obtaining a lot of those loans have been relaxed. So there are two specific loans that you can get. One is directly through the SBA, Small Business Administration, and it's for $10,000. It's about a 2-page application. Take about 15, 20 minutes tops to do. The other one is through your traditional financial institution, preferably somebody you probably got a bank that you have a relationship with, that you have a loan through already, and you can get up to $2 million. That $2 million is actually amortized over 30 years at 2.75% interest. And, for a lot of businesses, that's a very attractive interest rate and a very attractive loan with the term limits. And in that, you'll actually be able to get some forgiveness of that loan if you agree to a couple of things. And that the number one thing that you have to agree to is that you're not laying off people, and that money's being used for payroll. And that payroll is supposed to be forgiven in that loan. So once you subtract out those 3 months of payroll, you're only on the hook for whatever else you may have actually legitimately asked for, which could be, satisfying a loan that you previously had. It could be some tax issues. It could be some other issues that are acceptable and that you roll into that loan. And I encourage any and everybody to go ahead, and if you feel like you need these funds, and you probably will, to go ahead and do it now. What I'm hearing is that those loans and those funds will probably run out in July. So this is not the time to wait. This is not the time to kind of sit back and ponder whether or not this is real or not. There is a legitimate stimulus bailout on the federal level. And also, too, I want to go ahead and reiterate that when it comes to unemployment, those who traditionally do not meet the requirements for unemployment will do so under the stimulus. For example, if you are self-employed and if you're a contractor, you can actually be working at a church as a drummer and getting paid every Sunday, and claim unemployment because churches are not in. So again, this stimulus has been relaxed to the point where a lot of people will be eligible for it. The point is going ahead and getting your claim in as soon as possible. Doing it online, because I'm telling you, the phone lines are at a gridlock. And to be patient, because also please know that these claims don't start when you get somebody on the line and talk to them and have to walk you through it. It starts when you're eligible for it. So when you get that letter from your employer, letter from the church, so on and so forth, that you are unemployed, that's when you become eligible.
Okay.
And go ahead, brother.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Another thing I wanted to comment on is that Brother Bosworth was talking about whether or not we could be prepared, and and this is the thing that bothers me. This is the crux of the matter for the United States, and Dr. Williams Jarrett commented on this as well. When I say we, the President of the United States fired almost immediately when he got in office overseas of pandemics. Our first line defense when it comes to monitoring what's happening on a global level that can affect us here in the United States. And I do agree, it's all about leadership. Now we can, and I want us to make sure that we're taking this dismay, this idea of fear, this idea of people not believing in science and things that actually matter, that we can actually quantify and take it to the polls. Because this is something that I want to make sure that everyone listens who's on this feed. There is only, and I can't remember one time, but during times of war, the presidency never changes hands. And I repeat that. During times of war, when a president is in his first term going to a second term, that president is usually not re-elected. This is a war on a virus. So however you figure this thing is moving, however you feel about this issue, however you feel about loved ones being harmed and you being in harm's way yourself, make sure you're taking your energies and applying them to the polls during the appropriate time, because this speaks volume to the safety of Americans. And like the good doctor said, this is an epidemic that's not only affecting us, but affecting the world. So the things that we do here in the United States actually affects China. I've never seen Mexico close its borders to the United States, because even Mexico felt that we were not taking this thing seriously, that leadership was not taking this shit seriously. Canada has closed its borders to the United States. All other countries have closed their borders pretty much to the United States, those who have welcomed us in the past. And this is because of the idea that our chief of staff has come on, he played with this idea, he toyed with this idea, he minimized and marginalized his idea until it became something that was so big that we had to shut down our government. We had to shut down our government, our business, our education system, and now we're all scrambling to look for a new reality. So, so while I do agree that this is something that is huge, is phenomenal, there are things that we could have done to be more prepared about this situation. And as time goes by, I'm sure there will be more things that will be revealed about the lacks and the overall misappropriation of equipment, misappropriation of funding, of personnel. Bill Gates, and I won't talk on this very long. 5 years ago, Bill Gates went through great extent to offer an idea of merging our medical system with the U.S. military. You all know that we have the greatest military on the planet that can actually set up camp anywhere in the world within a matter of 48 hours. And to have naval bases and Air Force bases and Marine and Army bases on any continent in the world in a matter of 48 hours. That these trained, skilled individuals who go through training and experiments and all these things almost on a day-to-day basis to make sure they're ready for war, they can be coupled with our medical community to be ready for pandemics as well, to be able to move very swiftly, to be able to use telemedicine and all of these things. But it does take leadership to see that these things are necessary and be prepared. One thing about pandemics and any emergency, that's why we got insurance, right? Everybody in here with common sense know you get insurance, right? Because you know a problem is coming. The problem has always been and always has been foreseen that what would take this country out would not be a nuclear weapon, but it would be a virus. I yield the floor.
Yes, Mr. Taylor, I still need you. Hold on a second. Another question for you.
Okay.
Is it a length of time that your small business has to been in operation to apply for the small business loan through the stimulus bill?
It's my understanding that you would have to have at least had a tax return in 2019.
Okay.
And I could be wrong, but it's my understanding that what they take in consideration is the 2018, 2019 tax return.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, I want to thank all y'all once again for granting me this opportunity to speak with y'all, to get to know new faces, make new friends. I hope, we can all collaborate now, with the doctors and the deans and the federal people, and, we can get together, the authors, the fitness person. I'm just little old me put this together to try to give our community the right information and the right resources so we can move forward through this pandemic and come out better. So if anything, last words that anybody wants to say to the listeners, the floor is open. And once again, I thank y'all for giving me this opportunity to have you on the panel discussion, and just thank you again.
Hi, Bert. I would like to just reiterate the importance of staying home if possible, and reiterate the point that COVID is not just a disease that affects older people. There are 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds dying. So it's really important that we all do our part. I think we will come through this, but everybody has to do their part.
Okay.
Absolutely, I agree, Brother Robinson. I think just to echo, that was one of my closing thing. Just practice the social distancing guidelines that are set in place by the federal, state, and local governments, and just be safe and be well. Keep reading, keep learning, and keep moving forward. And that's it. And I think we should do this again at some point. I don't know when, but we should do this again at some point. I love this panel, high energy, and I believe that the viewing audience or the listening audience gained a wealth of information from this. And I'm looking forward to today to speaking on this again with you all.
I agree. I would say reflect on things going on in your life and things that you are improving on. I feel like I've improved in 3 or 4 weeks as far as working out, as far as communicating with my son who's in the hormonal stages, just looking at things and reflecting on how good God is and doing things. Lakeisha, you would appreciate the fact that Dorothy Lanier was on Zoom this morning on Sunday school. She got kind of frustrated because she didn't have the video check, but she logged in and she got it.
We had a family Zoom meeting yesterday, and she came to bed. It was good.
Good. So yeah, getting our elderly people tech savvy. My mama added a Facebook page today, and my nephew was going, "No, Grandma, you can't get a Facebook page." She's like, "I'm getting this for church, not for you." So yeah, so just new things. Like I said, just doing things that we've been afraid of doing and not making time to do. I'm excited about it. So yes, I definitely think we should do this panel again, and y'all bring some new ideas next time, because I wrote down my 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. I already take vitamin D, so thank you, Lakeisha. And I wrote down my virtual workouts so I can add something to my 3-mile walks today.
Cool.
I'll just chime in and say that as we move forward, we definitely need to remember that the only thing constant right now in life is change. We're not going to go back to a normal. That is out the window. So even as we navigate through this and we head out, to that light at the end of the tunnel, we have to still be prepared for continued change, evolution. So beginning to wrap our mind around that's going to be critical.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And hopefully next time we can get it out there early so more viewers can see it. I know this was quick, but it was very, very informative. So thanks again, Bert, for putting this together.
And Mr. Robinson, I like to say, and I try to find the silver lining in everything. We're here on Easter Sunday, and I'm overwhelmed with the idea that we're all still here, and that it could have affected our homes, but hey, we're in the state of these things are passing us by if we keep practicing those things that our medical community is telling us to do. But I will also say this, and kind of reiterating with Dr. Lenora, you know, she got a nickname back home. I ain't gonna use it on the.
You
on
can.
The,
I'm pig always. I'm still pig. It's all good.
but
I'm true to my beginning, Shaq. It's all good.
but those who know me know I am not a fisher. I've caught more fish than I ever have in my life these last few weeks. I saw a rainbow that I just kind of fell in love with one day after a good sprinkle. And here in Starkville, Mississippi, I saw a porcupine in my backyard. So, so I say all that to say, listen, maybe this is the time that we can slow down, a time that also puts in perspective what is really essential and what really isn't, because it seems like those who thought they were essential probably aren't. And those who would consider not essentially, they probably are the most essential people in the world right now.
Right.
So I think these things are putting stuff, you know, this time is putting things back in perspective where we can get back closer to home and kind of slow down a little bit and look inside instead of outside all the time.
Miss Ruby, I know you got something to say. Come on.
Just so blessed, so blessed. What a wonderful panel. The information that you all shared, I put the link to the YouTube on my Facebook page so people can go back and later watch it. Just continue to be champion for people, loving people, seeing the best in people, because that's what each and every one of you do. Bert, I definitely appreciate your vision and your obedience to what God has called you to do. It's very courageous. And again, we all have a wealthy network of individuals that we know. So maybe your next topic may not be something that we're expert in, but we can definitely get you an expert to keep it going. You know, just to have the congressman. Am I saying it right? Are you a congressman, Shaq?
State representative.
State rep. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I mean, that's just phenomenal. And everyone here, I mean, it's a great panel. And just to know that, and I'm a Southern girl, you know, my parents are, my father's from Arkansas, my mother's from Southeast Bayou area of Houston. And I just to know that the dreams of our ancestors, I mean, just to look at this panel, I'm just in awe. I'm wow. And we're still fighting for those who were supposed to not even be here. We're not even supposed to be at the seats and at the tables that we're in. And to know that we have a voice, and it's just phenomenal. So I thank you, and I thank you for being obedient, Bert, and I thank each and every one of you for taking out the time today on this glorious Resurrection Sunday to just help others.
All right. Thank you again. I really appreciate you. Much love and respect to all of y'all. And anyone else has anything to say before we close out?
Happy Easter Day.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Dr. Hogan, send me your contact information. I have a couple questions I want to ask you. You don't mind.
Will do.
Okay.
Bert, can you send more?
As well as everyone else, please.
Bert, can you share that? Maybe send out an email to the group.
Yes, I will get everybody information.
Okay.
To each other.
Awesome.
I contacted everybody and we'll go from there. So hey man, thank y'all once again. This been great. Got nervous in the beginning, but thank y'all for hanging in with me.
You okay, man?
And I really appreciate it. Like I said, once again, much love and respect. And we'll get back together in the next 2-3 weeks. You know, we'll time this one out this time. You know, I'll plan it out better. But
hey, how about we send some resources that you can post, especially if you find some free workouts. Let's get us a little page with some resources going.
Liz got to work out. Liz, I
know. I'm saying, I'm talking to Liz.
Where's she at?
Everybody send some resources, and we'll have our page going, our COVID group page. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but I'm gonna make sure everybody gets the information. Thank y'all.
Okay, guys.
Y'all have a
great.
Thank you.
Okay, brother
Shaq.
Ruby.
Good evening. Have a good
Keisha,
evening, everybody.
Liz, Bert,
Yeah.
Dr. Hogan, y'all be cool, everyone.
Peace.
All
All right.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Peace.
All right. Bye-bye.